Hey everybody, Jeff Evely here. Well, I don't call Nova Scotia Canada's most tyrannical province for nothing. Not only did they ban us from the woods and tell us to go to the beach instead, but they banned us from the beach with the cancellation of the Clam Harbour Sandcastle Building Contest, which normally attracts about 10,000 participants. Now they have banned us from going to Kennington Cove Beach, which is where people like to go to watch the waves come in from hurricanes, because the risk of standing on the shore looking at waves during subtropical storm Erin is just too great. And this raises the question, what risk? Whose risk are we talking about here? Well, it's supposed to be my risk because it's my body, and the only thing that makes it mine is that I get to say how it is used. Now, Tyrant Timmy, like all totalitarians, does not see it that way. He doesn't see me as a rational being with whom to be reasoned. He sees me as a piece of livestock to be coerced for whatever purpose the state decides, in this case, the province. And how do we know that? Well, Tyrant Timmy was the guy who got elected on a promise not to impose vaccine mandates or passports, and then within 5 minutes of taking office, he turned around to our entire public service and said, if you want to keep this job, you'd better let me penetrate your body and deposit a little genetic material in there. Creep. And when we wanted to protest these vaccine mandates, we wanted to support the truckers who were on their way to Ottawa to protest these vaccine mandates. He banned us from getting up on the overpasses like everybody else in the country was already during that historic moment. And then he banned Freedom from Nova Scotia from protesting on Citadel Hill because apparently the risk of outdoor transmission was just too great. And when Dr. Strang was put on the stand and asked to quantify that risk, he had absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support that. It was entirely emotive. It was an imagined risk, and he's a throne-sniffing, sycophantic, professional ass-covering bureaucrat. This is the way they are. They're risk-averse. And we've been talking about risk-averse culture in the Canadian Armed Forces for a long time. Ever since they bureaucratized the headquarters, we've had an awful lot of senior bureaucrats masquerading as senior officers. And it's a real problem when you're trying to get anything done, because they don't want to manage risk. They think that risk is something to be avoided. It's not. It's something to be managed. And my personal risk is something for me to personally manage. Now, when Tyrant Timmy imposed those vaccine mandates, he decimated our healthcare system with the permanent suspension without pay, basically, of all of our nurses. And we saw a spike in deaths in Nova Scotia. It was the biggest one of the entire pandemic in January of 2022, which was the deadline to get your shot. It was they got 10 times the number of COVID deaths by Nova Scotia's own numbers in January of 2022 as they did in November of 2021 when the Omicron wave hit. So that is exactly why citizens need rights. It's to protect us from our governments, because in states, in countries where citizens do not have the kind of rights that we're supposed to have here in Canada, they die a hell of a lot more often. And that's exactly what we're seeing here in Canada, not just Nova Scotia, but if you look at all-cause mortality, death rates in Canada, they've been going up over the course of the last several years, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they continue to climb steadily over the next several. So, another thing that tyrants are really into is blackmail. So, Tyrant Timmy, he passed a budget bill, an omnibus bill, 419, that included a line into it to allow his health minister to access our private medical information. And I'm just waiting now for him to leak my private medical information to a third-party, non-state actor to be published in an effort to humiliate me into silence. This is very much reminiscent of I'm not going to be silenced, by the way, but this is very reminiscent of something that Seneca said way back when. He said, all cruelty springs from weakness. And I didn't know this until like recent years, but that was one of the hardest lessons of my service to learn, was that cowards cannot lead. They can only coerce.